I think of my male orgasms, I think of something like this. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Crescent mOOn Show. I am your host, DJ YoungKC, into streets. On today's episode, we're talking about a highly requested item a lot of you listeners have been asking me to do. I put a poll up. If you didn't vote on it on the day it came out, then, tough shit. It was voted by you, the listeners, that I create an episode dedicated to high school. This episode will be based off of my general thoughts and ideas of what high school is, and I mean like scientifically and socially, just what high school really is and what it should be and what high school as of today is treated like, and just generally how people, suck whenever it comes to high school. Topic number 1, grades. First of all, grades in school are pretty stupid anyway. As of 2013, something like that, they started adding a 5.0. Since when in the hell did, 4.0 stop, being the best? Because whenever I was growing up, it was about like, oh man, I had a 4.0 GPA. Holy shit, that kid's like the fucking genius of the class. If he has a 4.0 GPA, like, dude, just get him into a fucking laboratory right now. I know he's 5 years old, but put him in a fucking lab. He needs to be studied by greater minds. But then high school, all of a sudden they're like, hey, there's this fancy new thing we like to call 5.0. See, it was so fancy, I had to say it all. Woo! But what I don't understand is like the actual grading part of it was like you would get like, let's say you get like a 79 on a test, right? Which is like a C, I think. If I remember right, I think that's a C, maybe even a C+. Anyway, let's say you get like 4 quizzes before that test. You get 100 on all 4 of those tests, but then you get a 79 on the test. First of all, how the hell do you even do that? Because the quizzes are supposed to lead you up to the test. Everything that's on the test is on the quizzes. So there's no reason why you should even get a 79 on the test. The point is, if you had that kind of, scores on 4 quizzes and a test, 100, 100, 100, 100, 79. And then you get like your grade card, your report card or whatever at the end of the 9 weeks or whatever it is. You have like a C in that class. You know what I mean? And that's all you've done is just take like those 4 quizzes and a test, which I know that's not really realistic, but for the sake of the conversation, we're just going to say this is. But what I don't understand is, how is that a C? You're sitting there like, how in the world is that a C? 400s and a 79? Like 4 A pluses and a C plus equals a C in this class? It's just... Topic number 2, cliques. If you want to find out where every single clique in a high school is, in any high school, I mean, this isn't just any specific high school or anything. This is every high school. If you want to find out, every kid's clique, go to lunch. Lunchtime is whenever everybody in the whole school, or at least most of the people in the school, is all gathered in one room. You just look at all around the lunchroom and you'll see, everybody, all these different people at these different tables. Most of the time there's a black table. Most of the time there's a jock table or whatever. Do people even call themselves jocks anymore? I feel like that's such a 70s term that why is that even still a word? I feel gross even saying the word jock. See, in my high school, it was about like football players. They had their own thing. There was even like a designated table for football players and basketball players, both, and baseball players, oddly enough. Like all the sports teams would just sit together, which I guess is cool because that builds chemistry or whatever, but not really. It's just eating lunch. And topic number 3 might as well be lunch food. I mean, if anything, because it was just so awful. You know what? Let's go ahead and get into that. Topic number 3, lunch. The food was absolutely awful at my high school. And a lot of you listeners right now can vouch for this. You all know what I'm talking about. Most of the time, the food was made of plastic. I don't care what they say, that, most of the time, there was rubber or some kind of, third-party element in these foods that, I don't know, made us, that had to have made us dumber. They had to be, drugging the students or something, because there's been child's play sets that has fake food, like the Easy Bake Oven or whatever. I know that's an actual microwave or whatever in the hell it is, but sometimes you'll get plastic cupcakes or rubber cupcake. Okay, no. New analogy. Think of a rubber dog toy, okay? My dog has this rubber cupcake, okay, and it squeaks or whatever. I would probably rather eat that than the school food that my high school served. But, that's not really an insult, because during high school, I pretty much ate that anyway. It got to the point so bad that kids were taking pictures of the lunch, and then the school found out that the kids were taking pictures of it and got pissed off. They were like, no, don't do that. Don't tell people what we're serving you. Don't tell people that we're feeding you dog food that, hell, like horses eat better than you kids do. Don't tell people that. We'll get lawsuits. We'll get shut down. We'll have to pay people money. Don't do that. Topic number 4. Relationships. This topic is probably the one thing that most of you listeners have tuned into this episode to even hear about. Relationships in high school are an absolute joke. Okay, I have to say that. Relationships in high school, they're so petty. And I understand that there's some cases that people meet in high school, they get married, like out of high or after high school, and then they stay together until they die. And those stories are so cool because I've met people who actually have met or have had that exact same scenario. They live their whole lives happy together, and that's really cool. I wish that for more people in this world. However, that's not the case. I mentioned in a previous episode that whenever you break up in high school, it is terrible, especially if you live in a small town, because most of the time you're going to date somebody in your grade, unless you're Dylan. So whenever you break up, which is pretty inevitable because in high school you see each other so much. You're in class together, you see each other outside of school, you're hanging out 24/7. And as sexually irritated teenagers or sexually aggravated teenagers, you eventually get tired of each other. And then you break up, and then it's just catastrophic, absolute fire from the sky and hell raining everywhere. My point is, relationships in high school suck because if you break up, you cannot get away from the person that you broke up with. I mentioned that in a previous episode, and a lot of people like to claim that, they'll get together, or whenever they do get together, they're like, oh no, we'll stay together forever, or whatever. We're perfect together. We'll get married out of high school and everything else. But then like 2 weeks later, we broke up. Oh, how does that make you feel? I don't really care. Well, 2 weeks ago you were just saying how you're gonna get married. You know how big that is? You have any idea how huge that is to say we're gonna get married? See, that's a real big thing now, is people don't care. People will just say shit and have no idea what they even mean by it. No, they don't have the slightest clue about the implications about it. Topic number 5. Teachers. I'm not going to lie, there are some really good teachers in high schools. I have to note something. In middle school, teachers were always telling me and, people in my class or whatever during my time, like, whenever you get in high school, oh man, you better look out because this high school is going to hit you like a freight train from hell and you're not even going to see it coming and you're going to hate it and it's going to piss you off and you're just going to hate life. All right, well, I can't really dog on those middle school teachers very much because part of what they said was true. However, there were times where I felt like high school was actually easier than the shit we did in middle school, because by the time junior year came around, I really just stopped giving a shit. So whenever it came to doing my work and stuff, hell, I didn't care if it was done or not, because regardless, they weren't, what was the worst thing they was going to do besides give you like a lecture of like, hey, you should do your homework because it's a responsibility thing. Like, damn it, I know that. I'm in high school. I know that I have responsibility. You don't need to tell me that. Teaching is a very disrespected profession also, because it's up there right along with police work. It's such a low-paying job. It's outrageous how low-paying a teaching job or a cop job is. Two of the most important jobs in our society are police officers and teachers. I mean, that's two of the biggest things that you need in society to, be complete, is education and safety. And I mean, honestly, if you're going to be a teacher, this more applies to teachers than to cops. If you're going to be a teacher, you have to have an actual straight up passion, an undying, fire burning passion for teaching. You have to love kids. You have to love being able to know that people are learning because of you. You have to love every single step of the way. You have to love every second of everything that you're doing as a teacher. All in all, thank you, teachers all around the United States, for what you do. I know there's some teachers out there that go out of their way to make people miserable. There are teachers who do that. That's going to wrap it up for the Crescent Moon Show. I thank you all for joining me today. In review, we talked about high schools and we broke them down, and I gave my opinion on them. I am your host, DJ YoungKC, in the streets, and I will see you all next time. Peace.